The first pain hits hard, deep, low, the kind that scrapes your name off bone. You double over, mittened hands pressing into your belly, steam fogging your breath as the wind slices down from the hills. He's gone. And you know he's not coming back. It started 2 days ago. He'd muttered something about supplies and Fort Martin, then disappeared down the trail with the mule. No kiss goodbye, no look back. Just the crunch of boots in packed snow fading into the hush of pine. Now the sky hangs low and swollen above you, and your body decides now is the time. Your breath shortens. You drop to your knees in the white. Beneath you, the scar of an old wagon rut, half covered. Your wedding ring, a dull brass band, cuts into your swelling fingers. You take it off, tuck it into your boot, not out of spite, out of survival. The pains are close together now. You stagger to the trapper's lean-to, half a wall, quarter of a roof, but there's wood, dry enough to catch. You've been collecting it all week, just in case. Funny how you never let yourself finish that sentence. You light the fire with shaking hands. Your tinder is a page from the letter he first sent you, the one that said, "You'll never have to hurt alone again." The irony burns cleaner than the pine. You lay out your shawl. It's thin, old, but it still smells like home. You fold it twice, then 3 times. Then press your knees into it. Outside, wind howls. But inside your body becomes its own storm. You grit your teeth and whisper your mother's name, then your own, then the one you were supposed to give your child. No one hears you except the mountains and the stars and, maybe, the figure you think you saw beyond the tree line, too far to help, too still to vanish. The fire crackles, your breath slows. But the pain doesn't. You reach into your coat and pull out the last thing you have, a small jar of lard, half frozen. You warm it in your palm, begin to prepare, like your mother showed you once, years ago, back when you still believed things came on time. The next contraction nearly snaps you in two. You scream into the shawl, not for help, for witness. Because birth in the cold doesn't care about promises. It only asks, can you stay alive long enough to matter? You almost don't hear it. A crunch of snow outside, soft, deliberate. You don't look, can't, because the next wave hits. And this one feels like it's dragging the whole past out of you. You cry again. This time not alone, because just outside, barely within earshot, a voice hums low. Not in English, not in panic, just a rhythm. Steady, old, a lullaby you've never heard but somehow know. And with it, something shifts. Not the pain, the fear, maybe he's watching, maybe he's deciding, maybe the mountains heard your name and passed it along. Either way, you hold on. You press your palm flat to the earth and whisper, "Don't let me leave before I meet her." Outside, the voice hums once more, then fades into silence, but the fire still burns. And in your belly, life kicks, hard, alive. You hadn't planned on leaving Tennessee, not really. But after the cholera took your sister and your father's debts took the land, you wrote one letter, just one. A short note answered by a man out west with strong handwriting and little sentiment. He said his name was Elijah Cole, said he had 40 acres, a mule, and a stove that burned clean through winter. Said he wanted a woman built for weather, not lace. You weren't lace. You were bone and blisters, ash and honey. You wrote back once, sent a photograph taken in a borrowed dress. He sent money for the train and a second letter folded around a pressed violet. You kept that violet in your Bible. even after the ink bled and the paper yellowed, even after the truth turned soft and mean. You arrived in Laramie on a gray day. He was late. You stood near the freight house, your belly already swelling, though not enough to show. When he did come, he looked older than the photo, wider in the shoulders, but narrower in the eyes. He didn't take your hand, didn't smile. He just said, "You'll ride in the back." You rode. 30 miles into scrub country, where the wind never quit and the sky looked too big for mercy. The cabin had one room, no stove, and 2 chairs, one broken. Still you unpacked, hung your shawl by the door, put the violet under the oil lamp, hoping it would dry right. The first night he drank. Second night, he apologized. Third night, he said, "Don't expect kindness when there's work." And after that, it was only ever quiet, until the mule was gone and he was too. You clutch the memory now like it still matters, like maybe his promise had weight. But the fire is dying and your breath comes shallower. So you focus on what's real, the heat from the embers, the pain in your spine, the way the baby pushes like she's trying to help. Outside, the sky cracks with wind, and again, the hum, fainter, closer. Then the sharp scent of something clean, juniper smoke. You dare a glance at the door, no figure, just shadow, but something's there, watching, waiting. You take the letter from your pocket, folded small, tucked beside the lard tin. You hold it close. Not because you want to remember him, but because you want to outlive him, so that when she asks who saved her, you can say, "I did." The fire hisses. Your shawl shifts in the draft. You grip the edges tighter. It's starting again, and this time you feel the head press low, almost ready. You bite your sleeve, whisper your name like a prayer, and let go. Outside, the wind stops. The hum fades. But somehow, you don't feel alone anymore. The shack leans against the wind like it's too tired to resist. Its door hangs crooked. The gaps in the wall let the cold snake through, brushing your ankles like a warning. But this is what you have, and so it becomes yours. You drag a log across the threshold to wedge it shut. Pack snow along the seams to stop the worst of the wind. The fire crackles low now, more ember than flame, but you feed it gently, pine needle by pine needle, like breathing life into a dying god. There's a small crate in the corner. Inside, dry moss, a rusted spoon, and a cracked tin cup with faded letters, USQMC Quartermaster's issue, left behind, forgotten, like you. You press the cup to your lips, the metal stinging cold, but it grounds you, reminds you you're still here. The contractions slow for a moment, long enough for you to arrange the shawl again, folded twice, padded with your coat. You add one more thing, the cloth napkin your mother embroidered before the fever took her. Her initials in red thread, still sharp despite the years. You set it beside the shawl, not for the baby, for you. Because birth doesn't need just strength, it needs memory. The wind howls, but you don't. You rest, breathe, until a shape moves across the doorway, this time not imagined, tall, still, and wrapped in furs the color of soot and snow. He doesn't enter, he doesn't speak, just crouches, places something at the door, then vanishes. You crawl to it, fingers trembling. It's a pouch, soft buckskin tied with sinew, inside dried meat, 2 flints, and a strip of cloth smelling faintly of cedar and tobacco. You hold it like it's breakable, Because kindness that appears mid-labor is always fragile. You don't eat yet, but you take one of the flints, strike it gently, let the spark crackle like promise. You feed the fire with it, not out of need, out of defiance. Because this cabin wasn't built for you, but you'll make it remember you. The next contraction comes fast. Hard. You fold forward, gripping the moss from the crate, bite your lip so hard it bleeds. Outside the wind stops again, but the air feels thick now, like someone's breathing just beyond the wall, not threatening, just present. You clutch the pouch, tie it to your wrist, not as a charm, as a pact. Whatever he is, whatever reason he's here, you're not dying without a name for your child, and not without knowing his. The fire catches brighter now, flickers higher, and in its glow you see, on the inside of the crate lid, a mark carved deep, a single feather. It means nothing to you, and somehow everything. Because in this place you are no longer nameless. You are not lace, you are not promise. You are mother, mid-labor, mid-story, still burning. You count the minutes in fire pops and breath pulls. Your thighs tremble, your lips crack. The blood beneath you soaks into the shawl, now dark and heavier than you ever imagined it could be. Still, you prepare. You melt snow in the quartermaster's cup, setting it close to the fire. It hisses quietly, steam curling like incense toward the rafters. You dip the napkin, your mother's initials fading in the damp, and press it to your thighs. It doesn't help the pain, but it reminds you that someone came before. You take inventory, your breath, what little strength you have left. The strip of cedar-scented cloth from the pouch, the carved feather mark on the crate behind you, and the baby inside, pressing, pulsing, closer now. You grip the spoon, not for eating, but to bite on. You know what comes next won't be gentle. The wind quiets entirely. No more humming, no more shifting shadows. Even the fire seems to pause. You close your eyes, try to conjure a prayer, not for salvation, for clarity, because pain makes everything murky. And you want her to enter a world that knows her name, but you haven't chosen one. He never asked you to, never cared to speak of girl or boy. He just said, a child means more wood, more mouths, like it was all math. But now, in this silence, you know that she deserves more than math. She deserves story. Another wave grips you. This one splits something deeper. You scream, a quiet one, no need to waste the air. The pain is low now, centered, final. You reach beneath the shawl, feel hair, warm, wet. Your body shakes, but you steady your hands. You say, come on, little ember, come through. And she does. The cry is sharp, bright, the kind that cuts through wood and ice and fear. You pull her up, wrap her in the napkin and cedar cloth. She's small, red, but fierce, alive. You rock her just once and whisper your name in her ear. Then one more. A name you never said aloud, only wrote in your mind. Annalyn, not from your family, not from the letter. From you, entirely you. The fire flickers as if it knows something changed. You lean back, holding her tight, and that's when it happens. A footstep, deliberate, closer now. Snow creaks under a slow weight. Then, a presence at the door. You look up, ready, fierce. He enters, not fully, just enough for the light to catch his face. He's younger than you thought, eyes dark, expression unreadable. He crouches without asking, places something beside the fire. Another pouch. And then He looks at the baby, only once, then at you, and nods. You hold your breath. He lifts his hand, points to the shawl wrapped around her, then touches his own chest. As if to say, I know that cloth, or she's wrapped in something true. Then he stands, steps back into the cold, gone, but the pouch remains. Inside, another strip of cloth, this one braided, a single red bead sewn in. No words, no note, just silence, but not emptiness, witness. You press it to your lips, then to hers. She doesn't cry this time, just blinks, once, then closes her eyes, wrapped in cloth and blood and survival. Cradled not by lace, but by weather, and a name that now belongs to both of you. The snow picks up again by morning, not a storm, just steady, soft, like the sky finally breathing out. You haven't slept, but you've stopped shaking. The baby sleeps on your chest, wrapped in the cedar cloth and shawl, her breath warm against your collarbone. Each exhale feels like a vow, a promise stitched tighter with every heartbeat. You sit against the crate, watching the fire shrink. Too tired to gather more wood, too afraid to leave the warmth, and then he returns. You hear him before you see him, boots or moccasins, pressing light into snow, not rushing, not loud, but there. He doesn't knock, doesn't call out, just stops. A figure at the open seam in the wall, his silhouette sharp against the pale drift behind him. You speak first. I'm not dead. Your voice cracks, but it holds. He nods, then points to the fire. You nod back. He enters slowly this time, places 2 logs down, split clean, then steps aside, silent as the snow. He doesn't speak English, or if he does, he chooses not to. You don't ask his name, not yet. He moves with the surety of someone who's done this before, seen pain, held grief, watched women survive things that tried to kill them. He sits across from you, cross-legged, no threat in him, just stillness. After a time he pulls something from his satchel, a round bundle wrapped in hide. He unties it slowly. Inside, a wooden rattle carved with birds and feathers. The paint faded but still there, red ochre and burnt charcoal. He holds it up, then sets it beside the fire, closer to the baby, then gestures. May I? You nod. He leans forward gently, touches only the rattle. No hand reaches for the child, just the offering. He sets it beside her head, a whisper of wood on wool, then sits back. You watch, not sure if you should thank him, not sure if it would be heard, but you say the words anyway. She's called Annalyn. He blinks once, then repeats it, quietly, carefully, almost like a blessing, then adds something in his own tongue, soft, lyrical. You don't know the meaning, but the sound makes the baby sigh. He reaches into his coat again, pulls out a piece of smoked meat, wrapped in bark, a zipper, leaves it by the fire, then stands, pauses, looks at you, then the baby, then, finally, at the shawl wrapped around her. He taps his chest once, then walks out. You whisper after him, you don't have to come back, but deep inside, you hope he will, not just for the help, but for the knowing, for someone who saw the blood, the breath, and stayed, even just for a while. You reach for the rattle. It's smooth, heavy, worn with time. You shake it once. The baby stirs, doesn't cry, just opens her eyes. And for a moment you swear she recognizes it. You hold her tighter, say her name aloud again, then say yours, then say nothing at all. because silence, in the right company, is no longer empty. It's earned. You've seen cruelty in a man's gaze before, the kind that looks past you, through you, like you're another burden to shoulder or a problem to silence. But when he returns again at dusk, this man doesn't carry that gaze. He kneels by the fire like he's done it 100 times, like he was always meant to be here. You watch him closely this time, not with fear, with curiosity. His hands move with calm intention. He rearranges the logs to burn longer, not hotter. Then takes out a pouch of dried herbs and sprinkles some into a tin cup of snowmelt. A steam rises, sharp with mint and something you don't know. He sets it before you, gestures, drink. You hesitate, then sip. The taste is bitter, grounding. It settles your stomach, loosens your chest. The baby sighs again in her sleep, shifting deeper into the shawl. You speak. I don't know who you are. He says nothing, but his eyes meet yours, not just looking, seeing. There's a history in them, old, dark, maybe wounded. You know that look. You've worn it yourself. You try again. My name is Clara. He doesn't repeat it, but he nods once, slow, solid, then reaches to the side, pulls out a strip of bark, draws a shape on it with charcoal from the fire, a mark that looks like 2 rivers crossing. He taps it once, then taps his chest, then yours, not his name, but maybe a bridge, something shared. You remember stories told in rail cars and kitchens about scouts who helped women through mountain crossings, never asking for coin or thanks, just presence. Maybe he was one of them. Maybe he lost someone once. Maybe that's why he came. You hold Annalyn closer, say softly, you saved her. He shakes his head, then points to you. Then the fire, then her. A triangle drawn in air. Then he places his palm flat on the earth, as if to say, you saved each other. The wind picks up. The baby stirs. You rock her gently, then ask, will you tell me your name? But he doesn't answer. Instead, he reaches into his coat again, pulls out something wrapped in hide, hands it to you. Inside, a small carved stone, black, smooth, carved with the same crossing river symbol. He gestures, keep it, then stands. As he turns to go, you say, come back tomorrow? Not a question and not quite. He pauses, then odds once, and vanishes into the snow. You hold the stone, warm it in your palm, then place it near Annalyn's head. She shifts again, smiles in her sleep. And for the first time since Tennessee, you smile too. Morning light breaks over the ridge, soft and pale. You wake before the baby does. Your body aches in places you didn't know could ache. Your hands tremble from fatigue, but your mind is alert, sharper, different. You've crossed something unseen. You survived the night that was meant to break you. The scout returns just after sunrise. No fanfare, just footsteps, steady and sure. You don't look up right away. Instead, you tend the fire, adjust Annalyn's wrap, and offer a single word as he steps inside. You came. He sets down a small bundle wrapped in wool. Inside, berries, dried roots, and a piece of bread hard enough to crack teeth. But you know how to soften it. You thank him with a nod, and this time, when you meet his eyes, you speak with intention. Tell me what you're called. He studies you, then reaches into his satchel, pulls out a piece of rawhide, scratches something into it with a bone point, holds it toward you. You squint. 3 symbols, lines and curves you don't recognize. He taps the first, says, Tahu. then adds softly, almost like breath, means watchful. Tahu, you repeat it once, twice. He nods, satisfied. You point to yourself. Clara, then to the baby. Annalyn, then to the little fire between you, still flickering, still alive. You whisper, "This fire, it remembers everything." He reaches across slowly, not to take your hand, to offer something else, a single feather, dark, striped at the tip. He lays it beside the baby, then sits, cross-legged, silent. You share the bread, dip it in snow melt to soften. Eat without words, but in the quiet, something grows, not comfort exactly, not yet, but recognition, like two threads finally realizing they were woven from the same cloth. You ask him, "Why did you come?" He doesn't answer, but gestures with both hands, sweeping them across the fire, the cabin, the baby, then cups his hands, as if to say, "Because I knew something was falling." You don't ask more, you just breathe. The baby sleeps between you, and in that shared stillness, something sacred forms, not a ritual, not a romance, but a knowing. You are no longer entirely alone. As he rises to leave, you hand him something, your mother's red thread napkin, now cleaned and folded. He pauses, presses it to his chest, then nods, as if to say, "I will carry this too." He leaves with no footsteps. Like snow makes room for him, like silence trusts him. You watch until the drift hides his shadow. Then you turn back to the fire, to your daughter, to the shape of your name, whispered through another's tongue. That night, the wind returns with teeth, sharp, unforgiving, but the fire doesn't die, because he returns again. Tahu, carrying no bundle, no gift, just dry wood stacked across his arms like an answer to a question you hadn't asked. He doesn't speak, just crouches, feeds the flames, tends the coals like they're sacred. You say nothing either, because this isn't conversation, it's ritual. You rock Annalyn slowly, her small body wrapped in the shawl that now smells like cedar and fire and breath. She makes soft noises in her sleep. Each one roots you deeper into the earth. Tahu sits closer tonight, not too close, but not across the room. You don't move away. You pass him a scrap of bark with berry-stained lines, a crude drawing of the cabin, the fire, and 3 figures. He studies it, traces a finger over the flame, then nods once. Approval, maybe, or gratitude. You ask, "Why the feather?" He looks up, then takes the rattle he left days ago, shakes it once. The sound barely rises. Then he points to the carved birds on its side, mouths a word. "Wanbli." You repeat it, "Wanbli." He nods again, then whispers, "Messenger." You stare at the rattle, then at the fire. It makes sense in a way that doesn't need logic. You say softly, "Then I guess she has her own." You tuck the feather into the shawl near Annalyn's heart. She doesn't stir. He removes his coat, drapes it over a log, letting it dry from snow. Without meaning to, you glimpse the scars on his forearms. Thin, old, some straight, others jagged. You don't stare, but you don't forget either. Pain leaves marks. Some people wear theirs louder than others. You say, "Did you lose someone?" His breath catches. He doesn't nod, doesn't speak, but he pulls something from around his neck, a leather thong. At the end, a bead, worn smooth, pink shell, cracked. He places it in your hand, then motions to the baby, then to the fire, then back to you. The message is simple. I've lost. I've found. Now I give. You don't keep the bead. You tie it to the cradle board you fashioned from the crate lid and some twine. Hang it above Annalyn's head. The fire flickers and reflects off the shell. For a moment it looks like sunrise, even in the dark. Tahu stays longer that night. Sits still even after the fire's burned low. You don't ask him to leave, and when he finally does, he doesn't bow or wave, just lifts his fingers in the faintest motion, like brushing smoke from a dream. You whisper, "Good night, messenger." Then hold Annalyn tighter, and feel the warmth from a fire someone else built, not because he had to, but because he knew. It begins again with wind. Not the gentle hush of snowfall, but a low roar, like the land exhaling something heavy. You sit up, heart thudding, arms already tightening around Annalyn. She stirs in your lap, but does not cry. Only presses her cheek deeper into your chest, as if the rhythm there still promises safety. The sky outside glows strange. Pale gold at the edges, dark as bruised plum overhead. You know that kind of sky. Thunder is coming, not just a storm, a reckoning. You move fast, faster than a woman days out from birth should. You pack the pouch Tahu left, the dried herbs, the flint, the braided cloth. You tuck the feather and the shell into the folds of the cradle board. The napkin embroidered in red goes next. A braid of your own hair tied around it. For luck. There's no time to wonder if he'll come. You have to be ready whether he does or not. You wrap Annalyn tightly, cradle board slung against your chest. Outside, the wind bends the trees like they owe it something. Then the first flash, white, blinding, followed by a sound that isn't thunder. Hoofbeats. You freeze, step outside the cabin's shell. Snow has started to fall again, thin, angled. The sky roils. And there, just beyond the tree line, movement. Not Tahu. Men, 2, maybe 3, riders. You back into the cabin, set Annalyn gently inside the crate lined with moss and wool. You reach for the rusted spoon, pointless. But it's something, and sometimes something is all you have. The hoofbeats stop, voices now, rough, laughing, English. You think he left her behind? Probably. Not worth dragging dead weight up the hill. You press against the wall, barely breathing. One of them kicks the door open. The fire flares. They blink against the light. And then the taller one grins. Well, hell, she's alive. You say nothing. You don't need to. Your silence burns. They step inside, tracking snow and filth. They're not settlers, not soldiers, not scouts. You can smell liquor and horses on their breath. The short one notices the baby. Damn, she had it. The tall one nods, then points to you. You alone? You still say nothing. They take that as yes. Then, before the next breath, a sound behind them, not wind, not fire, but steel against leather, Tahu. He stands in the doorway like a storm spine, not yelling, not charging, just there. One of the men turns, starts to speak. Tahu moves before the word forms, knocks him flat. The other stumbles back, hand reaching for a pistol. You lunge, not to fight, to shield Annalyn. But you hear it, the snap of bone against bone, the sound of ending, silence after, except for the fire and the baby, still sleeping, unmoved, unbroken. You turn slowly, see Tahu, breathing hard, blood on his sleeve, not his. The tall man groaning on the ground, the short one unconscious, outside. Tahu doesn't look at them, only at you. Then Annalyn, then the spoon in your hand. He smiles. Barely. But it's there. You kneel, Press your forehead to the floor, not in worship, in relief. He kneels too, gathers the baby, cradles her, for the first time, not awkward, not uncertain, as if he's done this before, as if he never stopped. Thunder rolls overhead, but inside, peace. You close your eyes, say a name, not yours, not his, but hers, because somehow she brought the storm, and calmed it too. Storm light on cedar. The wind dies at last. By morning the men are gone, dragged, limping, or worse. Tahu said nothing as he worked, no threats, no curses, just silence and ash and muscle. You watched from the doorway, not because you feared him, but because it felt sacred to witness how he ended danger. Inside, the baby stirs, eyes open wider now, more aware. She watches the world with quiet command, like she already knows its rhythms. You call her Little Thunder, and she doesn't flinch. The snow lightens. You and Tahu sit by the fire. There's no urgency now, just breath. You hand him the shell again, the one from around his neck. He shakes his head, pushes it back to you, then motions to the cradle board. A gift returned or made whole. That's when you ask what you've been afraid to voice. What happens now? Tahu doesn't answer right away, just sharpens a stick near the flames, slow and patient. Then he draws a shape in the dirt beside the hearth. It's not a name, not a map. It's home, a round structure open to the east, lines for fire, for stars, a place maybe, a memory. You say, "You want me to go there?" He looks at you, then the baby, then gestures, your choice, not command, not suggestion, just invitation. You think of Tennessee, the sickness, the broken land, the man who left you with a letter and a lie. You think of the red thread napkin, the cradle made from scrap, the rattle with its carved birds. You think of the shawl, the snow, the bead. You think of how you were held, without words, without question. You nod, not quickly, not out of need, but because something in your bones says, this is the next step. Tahu smiles again, barely, and pulls out a pouch. Inside, dried meat, bark to burn, a carved comb. You raise an eyebrow. He points at your hair. You laugh, the sound surprising both of you, but you let him hand it over. Because care comes in strange forms. You braid your hair before you leave. Wrap aniline in her shawl, feather tucked near her ribs. The cabin stays behind, but the memory doesn't. You press a final coal into the hearth, whisper a goodbye to the floor that held you, to the fire that warmed you, to the crate that cradled her. You walk. Tahu leads. He doesn't rush, stops when you stop, points out berries hidden under frost, waits when you need to nurse, watches the horizon with eyes that remember everything. By sundown you reach the edge of the valley. You see the smoke from a cooking fire, a lean-to. A figure walking slow with a pail. Tahu raises his hand once, high and steady. The figure returns the gesture. Nothing more. But it says, welcome. You exhale. Feel the cold leave your lungs. Look down at your daughter. And know, whatever comes next will not be easy, but it will be real. Because no one wrapped her in lace, only cedar, only earth, only memory, and the hands of a man who never spoke a promise, but kept one anyway. That night, you sleep in a round house built from willow and bark. The walls breathe. The smoke curls through a hole in the ceiling, not choking, but guiding. There's a fire in the center, not just for heat, for gathering, for remembering. The women don't speak much. They bring you water warmed with pine needles, lay blankets by your side. One gestures to Annalyn, taps her own chest, then points to you, then says a name, not English, but soft. It sounds like a song. You repeat it. She nods. Tahu watches from the far side of the room, carving something small, not watching you directly, but not watching, like he's giving you space, but still part of your breath. Later, you ask one of the women what the name meant. She smiles, wrinkles deep as riverbeds, says simply, "Fire daughter." You press your hand to your chest. Annalyn's curled against you, sleeping. You whisper it in her ear. She exhales, peaceful. You spend the next days learning small things. Which bark makes the best tea? Which stones crack sharp enough to cut meat? How to tie a baby wrap across your back so she sleeps through the wind. They don't correct you when you do it wrong. They just show you, again and again, until it becomes yours. On the third night, Tahu brings you a piece of hide, fresh, tanned, soft. He unrolls it carefully. Inside, a map, drawn in ash and ochre. It marks rivers, canyons, a place circled in red clay. You ask, "What's there?" He says only one word, "Choice." He draws a second circle, north, near a trading post. A place he won't go. He points to it. Then you, then Annalyn. Then rests a stone beside the hide. You understand. You could go. You could board a wagon, go east, raise her with ink and lace and letters. Let her forget the cedar, the feather, the rattle. Or you could stay, where names don't come on paper, where love is not declared but done. That night, you sit by the fire and ask yourself the oldest question. Who am I now that I am not someone else's wife? Now that I am not waiting to be saved? Now that she watches me and mirrors my mouth when I whisper stories? You whisper aloud, "I'm the mother of a fire daughter." The wind outside doesn't argue. Tahu adds a log to the flames. He doesn't speak. He never has to. But tonight, he points to your braid, then his chest, then the baby, then back to the fire. One circle. You draw it in the dirt and rest your hand inside it. You don't say yes, but you don't walk away, which here means everything. You mark the day not by the sun, but by the way Annalyn opens her eyes and smiles, truly smiles for the first time. It's not gas or sleep or a twitch. It's joy, recognition. You feel something shift inside your ribs, as if a page turned in the story you didn't know you were writing. The others call her by different names now. Little Wind, River Echo, Shawl Heart. No one claims ownership, not even you. Each name is a gift handed like bread around the fire, each one rooted in what she's done, not what someone wished her to be. You sit beside the creek, washing the napkin again. The red thread is nearly faded now, but you press it between your palms, dry it in the sun. It still holds warmth, still smells faintly of home, though you're not sure which one anymore. Tahu joins you, carries no weapons, only a bundle of roots and a hollowed gourd. He sits beside you without words, watches you braid Annalyn's hair. Tiny wisps, barely more than down, but you do it anyway. Because some rituals aren't about function. They're about claiming the moment. He points to her, then draws a line in the air, curved like a cradle, then sharp like fire. He says something low, in his own tongue. You don't ask for a translation. Instead, you reply with a story, one she's too young to hear, but you tell it anyway. About a girl who followed a wagon across mountains, who was left behind in the snow, who gave birth beside a flame and a spoon, who wrapped her daughter in a stranger's gift and called it family. Tahu listens. His eyes never leave yours. At the end, he nods once, then presses something into your hand, a circle of woven grass, tight and clean. You tilt your head. He draws a ring on the dirt, places the circle inside it, then gestures to the baby, then to you, then says, belonging. You tie it to the cradle board with the shell and the feather. A totem now. A lineage not written in blood, but in moments witnessed. That night, a young girl from the camp asks to hold Annalyn. You nod, watch as she cradles her gently, sings a lullaby you don't know. The baby coos back as if she does. Someone passes you a cup of warm broth. You drink slowly. Feel it settle deep. The women begin to hum, a low circular sound. You don't know when it started, only that it never really ends. You hum too. And for the first time it doesn't feel like imitation. It feels like joining. Later, by the fire, Tahu speaks. Not many words, but one lands like thunder in your chest. Name, not just given, carried. You nod and whisper, Annalyn. She stirs, smiles again. Because she knows, you think of the names written on your old marriage license, the ones in the letter from the man who left, the names in the census books, dried and brittle. And you let them go, all of them, because this name, this daughter, will never be filed, never be claimed, only carried, from cradle to shoulder to story. And finally, fire. The valley shifts. Spring pushes from beneath snow crusts, gentle and firm. You wake to birdsong instead of wind, to warmth rising from earth instead of leaking from the sky. Tahu's coat no longer steams when he walks in from outside. The baby no longer flinches at every gust. You've settled into rhythms, washing, carrying, cooking, listening. But you haven't stayed silent. You've begun to teach. One girl asks you about letters, another about how to stitch a seam the way your mother taught you. One night, an older woman points to your hands and says, "You've built something." You nod. But it's not a cabin, it's a life. Tahu doesn't change much, still moves quiet, still carves when no one's watching, still never raises his voice. But something new has bloomed in him too. He smiles more, watches Annalyn with the softness of someone who remembers holding grief and now chooses grace. One morning he brings you a scrap of hide, painted with charcoal and ash, a story circle. You recognize the lines. They follow a woman through snow, a baby wrapped in cedar, a man standing outside a fire. But this time, the circle doesn't end with stillness. It ends with flame rising. You trace the lines. Ask, "Is this what we are?" He doesn't answer, just presses the hide into your hands, then steps back, letting you hold it like truth. You decide then, Annalyn will know every part, not just the warm, not just the beautiful. She'll know the storm, the spoon, the scream. She'll know that being born into love doesn't mean safety. It means being chosen again and again. You begin writing it, not in ink, not in books, in her, in your voice when you hum to her at night, in the stories you tell around the fire, in the way she listens, eyes wide, breath slow, as if she's already remembering. You call her your daughter aloud, in front of everyone. No one challenges it, because they saw, because they helped, because she is theirs too. One woman hands you a carved stick, a spindle, another leaves wool by your sleeping mat. No one says what to make. But you understand, stories must be spun, braided into thread, woven into memory. That night you sit by the fire, Tahu beside you, Annalyn asleep on your lap, the stars thick above the smoke hole, and you speak her full name aloud, all of it, including the ones no one else knows, the names that burned, the ones that healed, the one that stayed. And Tahu says, quiet, she will carry fire. You nod and add, she will be fire. You both smile, not for each other, not even for her, but for the woman you've become, and the girl you were, and the story that knows your name. It's nearly summer when the first rider comes. Not a threat, a messenger, dust-covered, young and nervous. He dismounts with caution, his eyes darting between you and the circle of women by the puerta. He carries a paper, folded, sealed in red. You recognize the crest. Rail authority. You take it with hands that no longer tremble at every official mark. Open it slow. Inside, a request for identity verification. There was a report of a missing woman, last seen midwinter on the overland route. They ask if you're her. They ask if you're alive. You are, but not as they left you, not by their name, not by their language. The women around you are silent. Tahu watches from the edge of the fire. No one presses you. No one decides for you. You look down at Annalyn. Her hair is longer now, her laugh louder. She points to the messenger and asks, why is he scared? You smile, kiss her brow, and say, because he doesn't know what fire looks like when it chooses to live. You don't answer the letter, not that night, not the next. Instead, you take Annalyn to the stream. Let her wade where the current's soft. You braid her hair and tell her a story, not about danger, but about becoming. She hums while you speak, because she already knows. Later, by the fire, you unwrap the shawl, the one that held her that first night, the one Tahu wrapped around her without words. You've never washed it, only aired it in moonlight. You hold it out to him now, say, she should keep it. He pauses, then takes it, lays it over her shoulders, ties it with the red thread napkin, the same way you wore it once. She runs through the dusk with it flowing behind her. And for a moment, it looks like memory made flesh. You keep the paper, fold it, tie it with twine, then bury it beneath a stone near the willow tree, a place Annalyn often naps, a place you know won't forget. Somewhere far, a man may still be waiting, still hoping to reclaim what he abandoned, but it won't be you. It won't be her. What he lost was never his to begin with. That night you asked Tahu, will she know who we were? He shakes his head, then touches your hand, corrects you, who you are. And somehow, in that moment, you believe it. Not because it's sweet, but because it burns with truth. You are the mother of a daughter born from silence, wrapped in cedar, carried through stormlight, named by fire. And tomorrow, when she asks again why the stars follow her, you'll say, because they remember the shawl, and because so do you. You rise before dawn, the world holds its breath, even the birds wait. You gather the bundle, the one with the rattle, the shawl, the red thread napkin, and the bead. Each item a breath from the past, each one a whisper of who she is. Annalyn sleeps soundly, arms stretched above her head, mouth slightly open. A dream dances behind her eyelids. You hope it's not of snow or storms or silence. You hope it's of feathers and hands that never dropped her. You step outside. The fire is still warm from the night before. A few coals glow, stubborn as memory. You add kindling gently. No rush, no fear, just rhythm. Tahu joins you, saying nothing. He adds wood without asking. You both sit shoulder to shoulder. You hand him the map hide he once gave you. It's been marked again, this time with a ring, not drawn in clay but sewn in with red thread. A quiet border around a place not named, only known. You whisper, "She won't remember the storm." He replies, "No, but she'll remember what came after." The camp begins to stir, not with chatter, with song, low, cyclical, the same melody they hummed the first time they held her. You realize you know it now. You hum along, and she hears it. She stirs, then smiles, then reaches. You lift her, wrap her again in the shawl. But today you add something new, a lock of your own hair braided with one of hers, tied to the feather. A gesture, a vow. Today she is not reborn. She doesn't need to be. Today she is remembered, by name, by fire, by story. You hold her high, just once. Let the wind kiss her face. The women clap softly. Tahu lays a stone beside the fire, engraved with a single symbol. You recognize it now. It means belonging, not as possession, but as return. You speak to Annalyn as the sky warms. One day you'll leave this place. One day your hands will build new fires. But no matter how far you go, you carry this, the shawl, the storm, the story. They are your birthright. They are your truth. She touches your cheek, laughs. And in that laugh you hear every name she's ever been called. Little Thunder, Fire Daughter, River Echo, and the one she chose herself, Annalyn. The flames behind you crackle once, sharp and final, like punctuation, like the end of a song. You whisper, as always, you are safe, you are loved, you are home. And this time she whispers something back, a sound not quite word, but shaped like a circle, like fire. The wind carries it, soft, tender, final.